Okay. Oh my goodness, the brain control has been terrible lately. About 2 days ago, I was making my pizza. You know, the same one that I made for the Ninja Turtles, except I've kind of upgraded it to make it more Greek and Italian. I'm putting in feta cheese and I worked so hard on that pizza. I make it in two batches because the second half is like leftover. They used brain control on me to get confused about the time. I put it in the See, first I get the Whole Foods pizza dough and I cook the dough in the oven for about 10 minutes to form the base of the pizza, the crust. And then I put the topping on top of it. Then I stick it back in the oven and bake it for another 10 minutes. So I stuck it in the oven around 8:38, and I had it stuck in my mind that I needed to leave it there till 8:58. The first half of it was good. I don't know why my mind was stuck on that. It was brain control. And when I pulled it out, it was burnt and stiff and hard to eat. And I thought, oh no, all that hard work. I was really aggravated. It was brain control. So the brain control has been terrible lately. This is an abomination. I've been trying to figure out why Satan's team feels justified to use brain control on Jesus' team, because I'm part of Jesus' team. Okay, I'm his favorite human. I think I figured it out, and I'm going into it in the story that I'm working on, which is the first, because Angelina Ballerina, when we dealt with her, she was a brain control monster. And I've been trying to figure out what makes these people these beings feel so justified to use brain control. Anyways, to make a long story short, I did eat all the pizza, but it would have been a masterpiece if brain control wasn't used on me to get me to mess up some of it. Yeah. So that's really aggravating. It really gave me a lot of empathy for Brent, because Brent was talking to me brain to brain, and he was saying, Gail, you need to quit blaming yourself for what they brain controlled you into doing. He said, I understand. I mean, I was feeling so stupid that this happened, that I allowed this to happen. And Brent was saying, I understand how you feel. Because when Lori McBride used brain control drugs on me and got me to go to bed with her, I felt like it was my fault that I ended up in bed with her. See, the brain control drugs made him feel that he was making love to me, like he was in some sort of fantasy. And he said, it's hard to shake the feelings of guilt. But if you were brain controlled into doing it, it's not your fault. Yeah. But I keep telling myself, how could I have prevented this? And unfortunately, I guess sometimes in life, you're just going to have to understand, if you're in a war, and we are in a war, we're fighting Satan, okay? If we're in a war, we're going to lose some battles. They're going to shoot their ammunition at us, and we're going to be injured. So that's basically what happened. Yeah, like I've got these bumps. Can you see that bump there on the finger there? And that bump right there on my thumb? Ooh, that hurts. And it's not just in my joints. It's like throughout my whole body. I've got these little pain points. Brent seems to be telling me brain to brain. He said it's you're inhaling something that's getting into your blood, and it's being deposited throughout your body. It's the bombs, apparently, that they're dropping. They're still trying to send tornadoes to my area. But I am very diligent about doing the Gail commandments, and I'm working on the Gail Series too, which I think also strengthens the Gail Shield. I had a bit of writer's block with the current story that I'm working on because I couldn't zero in on the theme, and I pretty much need to know what the theme of my story is to get into it, but I finally figured it out. In fact, I think I might read you some of what I wrote here, because it's kind of interesting. when I work on these stories, I figure out all sorts of things. Now, this could change. This could very easily change simply because the story's not done yet. And I did this with basically this story is how we were able to get Zach Knight over to our side. And it started kind of like when the Jesuits and I banded together to fight the Gail android. And as a result of that, we began to see our enemy not just as the enemy. We began to get some empathy for them. We began to realize that they were fellow human beings, that they weren't just the enemy in war. And Rule 13 started opening up to us. Let me see if I can read this. So what was happening was Jesus actually instructed Terrance Jenkins. He said, he told her, he actually encouraged Terrance Jenkins to give Rule 13 some oral sex. And it was kind of conflicting for Terrance because he wasn't really sexually attracted to her. He was just doing it to keep her alive. Let me see if I can. Yeah. And it was kind of funny because I was encouraging Rule 13 to have spirit-to-spirit loving with Jesus. Not understanding that to a Jesuit, let me see if I can get this here. I'm going to read you from my story. I think we need to let her know that Jesus loves her more than Zach Knight, Gail said. He may make love to her not with flesh to flesh, but spirit to spirit. Gail had her own ideas in 2013 about how she imagined Jesus might be as a lover. Let me tell you, Jesus' spirit-to-spirit loving is better than flesh with flesh. Tell her that. I would like for her to get a crush on Jesus. Even if it means she dreams about sex with him, Jesus will take her where she's at and go on from there. Gail explained her thoughts. Jesus knows how to do it, so I kind of encouraged her to have a spirit-to-spirit loving with Jesus. And then Zach Knight said, not Zach Knight, Terrance Jenkins said, I'd be talking to 13 right now. And I said, Jesus Christ wants to love Rule 13, but she rejects him and favors Zach over him. She has really hurt Jesus. Telling her all about this, Terrance said, I'll be praying. This is beyond human help. Bye for now. I'm in prayer. Oh my goodness. Rule 13 says that Jesus is approaching her brain to brain, Terrance said to Gail. That's me. This didn't seem right. Oh dear, I hope it's not Zach Knight. She says he's making love to her and doing bukkake on her. Terrance was shocked. I'll just keep praying, Gail concluded. Perhaps it's Jesus, I don't know. Wow, 13 be a screamer. Terrance was getting alarmed. I have to stand back. 13's powers be on full force right now. Is this what a spirit orgasm looks like? Gail, is this right? Oh my goodness, oh my goodness! We got a problem here. All the men in the church be reporting strong erection. Should I try to stop this? This be getting painful. Rule 13 was getting so overcome by her lover that she lost her ability to control her powers that give men erections. In fact, Rule 13's power to give men erections could kill them if their penises exploded from severe erections. Jesus would never do this. Yeah, this is Zach Knight, Gail concluded. I'm going to hit Zach with lightning bolts. Pray for me, Gail, Terrance said. I need to go shake Rule 13 out of this. But as I get closer to her, my erection gets stronger and stronger. I can't let Zach do this. Okay, I be going. Tell Rule 13 that Jesus does not operate like this. Scream it at her. My penis never been so swollen in all my life. Oh my goodness. Tell her it's Zach Knight. She seems to be too sexually aroused to hear me. There has to be something I can do to deflect her attention away from what Zach be doing. Oh my goodness, this erection be so hard. I'm hitting Zach with lightning bolts. It's not working? No. 13 still be caught up in brain to brain with Zach. She thinks it be Jesus, so she's participating in all the sick things he be doing to her. I'm trying to shake her. Boy, these Jesuits sure had strange ideas about Jesus and strange and obsessed sexual preferences, Gail thought, listening to Terrance. Gail decided that recommending Jesus make love to 13 was a bad idea. Getting this close with her penis explosion powers is making it really hard for me, Terrance said. I was wrong, Gail said to Terrance. Jesus will never make love to any human woman. Tell her that. I thought that Zach would only try to imitate Jesus to me, but I was wrong. He'll impersonate Jesus to any woman he can use to defeat the real Jesus. When Jesus does spirit to spirit, it is only with those who are born-again Christians, and there are no physical, sexual feelings at all. Tell her this. It's pure spirit with spirit. I think she can only respond sexually right now. It's getting worse. I think Zach be trying to kill her with orgasms. Gail concluded that Jesuits had some rather strong sexual needs. Because Gail never needed sex that badly, she failed to realize how her recommendation that Jesus makes spirit-to-spirit loving with 13 would affect 13. Tell her that Zach Knight is impersonating Jesus to her, and we shall pray for her. He's very evil with her right now, because he's furious at her for wanting to make love to the real Jesus. Zach was Antichrist in 2013. The real Jesus is Zach's #1 enemy. Have an emergency meeting at Church of Gail and ask all the world to pray for Rule 13. I think we need to deflect her sexual feelings somehow away from Zach Knight, so I'm reading you the story that I'm working on. I'm actually making love to her to try and deflect her from Zach, Gail said. So I'm reading this. Okay. I think it'd be helping. Should I join in, Terrance said. Go ahead. Tell all of the men and women at Church of Gail to all make love to her. I think Jesus will forgive us. Perhaps we can pray and ask Jesus to fill us with his love for Rule 13 and use us as his instruments to love her away from Zach Knight. Gail paused to consider their strategy with, okay, I'm going to kind of jump forward. If you want to get the whole story, go to Gabrielle Chana FOX News. I'm sure they're airing it, or if they haven't, they might be filming it right now. So story short, Rule 13 couldn't be satisfied until everybody at Church of Gail had a big orgasm. And and we were debating on the morality of what we were doing, because Rule 13 insisted she wanted a bukkake, okay? And I wasn't sure Jesus would approve of a bukkake. This was back in 2013. We know Jesus better now. He doesn't care about any type of sex as long as it's consensual and you're not hurting innocence, okay? And you're respecting everybody's right to be who they are. In fact, okay, so after we had this big long discussion, it ended up that Terrance ended up having a big climax with her. He said, oh my goodness, here it comes. Oh, my goodness. Do you feel better? Gail approached this like a scientist trying to solve a problem. I feel like you all do right now. This is how I feel when I make love to another man on my marriage list besides Brent, especially when one is depressed. We have a mutual understanding. This was when I had the marriage list, okay? This was 2013. I guess if you all can share me with each other, I can occasionally share you with another woman, especially when life and death is involved. How's Rule 13? Is she satisfied, or is she still under Zach's control? If Rule 13 was satisfied, the danger for Rule 13 might be over. Though Gail would never die for lack of sex, she concluded that it appeared that Jesuits could. Gail had to work out how to approach those who had vastly different preferences from her in what they wanted for their meals and dessert. She had to rise above the constraints of the evangelical Christian world she grew up in. She gave this all deep thought. Gail learned a long time ago that sex was a very big deal to some people. Though Gail could understand passion and romance, she would never die for lack of passion, especially in the form of pure sex or lust. Even in her 20s, Gail could go for months without even thinking about sex that much. Emotional connection was what it was all about for Gail. The physical interactions, actual sex, was less important to her. But she was beginning to understand that some people had a much stronger need for physical interactions than she did, which was cool, as long as they respected those who were different from them. If Gail had a strong emotional connection with a partner, which she rarely got, she could then fully enjoy a physical interaction with that partner, with the physical interaction being more a dessert and the emotional connection the main meal. But for some people, Gail reasoned, it seemed dessert was a mandatory part of their meal. Rule 13 and the Jesuits seemed to all be like this. For Gail, dessert, sex and lust, was optional. Sometimes she wanted dessert, sex and lust. Sometimes she didn't care about dessert, sex and lust. And sometimes she just had too many desserts and didn't want dessert anymore, or just found the thought of dessert repugnant. When Gail's sex drive was stronger as a young lady, she enjoyed dessert more. But dessert or sex was never mandatory. In fact, in a long-term and stable relationship, like she had with Brent Spiner, she could make her vagina available to her partner, that is, if her partner had a strong need for dessert, as Brent does. But Gail didn't feel obligated to reciprocate with an orgasm, enjoying the cuddle time, emotional connection more. Because Gail had a strong need for an emotional connection, she could be easy prey to predators like Satan, who would impersonate Brent to her brain to brain, making her feel, before I forget, I've decided I'm not going to be watching any more television. I'll get onto that briefly after I read this. I'll tell you why. Making her feel she had that emotional connection, the daily conversations she longed for. Usually the fakers, sorry Brent impersonators, could never get Gail in the mood for dessert or sex. And if she ate dessert with them, it was more out of duty than true desire for it. Kind of like eating dinner at a guest's house and taking some dessert so as to not offend the host. This is because Brent lives in Gail's apartment with her, March 2022 forward. Brent exists in another dimension that Gail can't see, and Gail longs to have conversations with Brent, emotional connection. Brent does not literally exist in the dimension that Gail perceives, so her only daily conversations with Brent are brain-to-brain conversations. Therefore, she can be vulnerable to a predator like Satan, who fakes as a Brent brain-to-brain conversationalist with her. But like everyone else, she had to have her main meal, which for her was the emotional connection with her partner. In 2013, Gail was beginning to realize that for some people, like Rule 13, dessert was a mandatory part of their main meal, and that these people considered dessert, sex, and lust a mandatory part of their daily activities. It seemed to Gail that Rule 13 and the Jesuits were all like this. This didn't make Gail better than them or them better than her. It just meant everyone was entitled to have dessert or not have it, or to have it how they like it, as long as it was part of a healthy and balanced diet. Yes, it was possible to eat dessert, and perhaps even lots of dessert, as part of a healthy and balanced diet. Maybe not too much dessert to the point of making it the main meal all day long, though, but we all had to start somewhere. Once Gail realized that Jesuits considered sex and lust a mandatory part of their daily activities, Gail knew she could never be a Jesuit. It would be like forcing Gail to eat food she didn't like or need all day. Apparently, some beings fail to realize that not everyone needs or wants dessert, and that to force dessert or your style of dessert on someone who doesn't want it would be like forcing your favorite food and manner of eating it on everybody. But if you felt you needed dessert every day, perhaps you can't see that, especially if you feel you'll die without your dessert. Perhaps some beings just needed to understand that not everyone is just like them, and that's just fine. If we could all learn to be comfortable with who we were, perhaps we'd have less of a need to force who we think we are onto everybody else. It all seemed to boil down to one thing: Did we have faith in the goodness of our Creator? If not, we became filled with doubt and fear and conducted our lives as if all was unfair and that we had to force our version of ecstasy onto everyone, even those who didn't share our preferences. Feeling inadequate, we have to make ourselves special and then force that specialness on everybody to the point of insanity. This fear and doubt would then lead to a world of imbalances and inequity, where only those who had our tastes and preferences, in other words, our specialness, would be honored. And if we didn't like how we were categorized, male, female, etc., we'd create our own new categories in order to feel special. And thus, the SJW movement came into being. The problem is that the categories we'd create actually did not exist. And we created them just to feel special. In essence, we create our own fantasy world and then punish those who fail to endorse a false version of reality. This need to feel special came out of our fears and doubts. Gail did this as a young lady when she tried to force her favorite food, a strong emotional connection with dessert only after a strong meal of emotional connection, on everybody, in the form of a very puritanical Christianity that condemned premarital sex like it was murder. Jesus used Gail's husband, David Schuler, to get her out of that self-righteous mentality. Because Gail married this pedophile, not knowing he was a pedophile, simply because he was willing to marry her without even holding her hand, which made him seem the epitome of virtue. In Gail's fantasy world, those who practiced lust outside of marriage had the deepest and darkest sins in their lives, which was incorrect, and was part of Gail's Victorian fantasy world as a young lady. She lost herself into her Victorian fantasy world to feel special. When we feel insecure about our sexuality, we have a need to feel special and to lose ourselves into a fantasy world revolving around our specialness that makes us feel special for just being an ordinary human. For Gail in her 20s, it was her Victorian fantasy world. For the Jesuits and Satan, it was a lust-filled feast with soaring orgasms and thrills, and the belief that those who couldn't or wouldn't participate in the feast were inferior for various reasons and deserved the firing squad. In our special fantasy world, we'd live in unreality and punish those who fail to honor insanity and unreality. If we could just relax and have faith in our divine Creator, God and Jesus, we'd be sane, relaxed, and balanced, and at peace and happy within, free to evolve, change, grow, and be who we were meant to be. Free to defy all the boxes, all the categories, and all the expectations, and just be truly and authentically ourselves. It all started with faith in our divine Creator and the belief that we were created to be good and free. Satan apparently was punished for violating the boundaries of a supreme being who had different food preferences from himself. Satan just needed to apologize and admit he was wrong to violate that supreme being's dinner table. Apparently, this supreme being had a right to be who he was, just as much as Satan had the right to be who he was. This supreme being apparently also liked dessert, but not in Satan's style, and had his own rules for dessert that Satan refused to respect. Apparently, Satan felt his rules for dessert were superior to anyone else's rules, especially if these others didn't like how Satan enjoyed his dessert. And Satan felt superior to those who did not share his dessert and food preferences. But Satan, when you're eating dinner at someone's house, you should respect the rules of that house. If you can't, then just don't eat dinner there. Satan felt his punishment was too severe. But Satan, imagine how you'd feel if someone switched out your favorite dinner with their own food that you didn't like. In fact, you found the switch out absolutely repugnant. This supreme being set up rules that are his food preferences for his house. And you were a guest in his house, apparently, and tried to sneak in your food preferences onto his dinner table. You switched out his favorite meal with your meal without telling him. Empathy, Satan. You made him furious by doing this, and he had a right to be mad. Would you like it if someone forced their repugnant diet on you in place of your favorite food when you felt the switch out was disgusting? You say, that's what God does to me. You screwed it for all of us by being a guest in God's house and sneaking in your repugnant food onto his dinner table. When God found out, he was rightfully mad and laid down some rules so no one can sneak repugnant food onto his table ever again. I have interesting writing. But God shouldn't feel my food is repugnant, Satan would retort. God has the right to be who he is, Satan, and you have no right to place your unwanted food in place of his or mingled with his on his dinner table and force him to eat it. Get that, bud? I have empathy for God. It's kind of like how I feel when you try and brain control me to make your point that I am an inferior species. You are forcing your ways on me, and I hate it, because you try to manipulate me to have your food preferences, which I find nauseating, frankly. I have the right to be who I am and who I want to be. This supreme being has the right to be who he is and who he wants to be. You may say, well, I have the right to be who I am and who I want to be. This is true, as long as you respect the rights of others who have different preferences from you, and you don't shove your food on their dinner table without asking them first. If they say no, you need to respect that. That's the problem. You look down on those who don't share your food preferences and add in your food onto their dinner table while you are a guest in their house. Apparently, when God looked at what you snuck, this is kind of funny. This story's got a lot of comedy in it, you guys. There's one section in here that's downright hilarious. I could probably win a Nobel Prize in comedy for this story. I'm serious. Apparently, when God looked at what you snuck onto his dinner table, he was ready for the puke bucket. Oh, time for me to take my allergy medicine. It's a good thing I set my alarm, right? Forget. Yes, I would forget. Yeah. Oh, my goodness, you guys. All right. Let me get back to my video here. All right. It's good to drink some water when you do a lot of reading anyway. Apparently, when God looked at what you snuck onto his dinner table, he was ready for the puke bucket. And now you screwed it for all of us who don't exactly share God's food preferences. So God had to lay down some rules. Jesus is trying to balance things out. And now, Satan, you are everything you accuse God of. You are a worse prick than him, because at least he allows other universes to exist that have different tastes in food from him. If you had your way, the whole stinking shebang would all share your unique food preferences, and if not, you'd burn down their house, poison their food, and kill them or brain control them into submission. Oh, you're so superior, and you think your superiority gives you the right to do that. Even God never uses brain control. Jesus almost did when he blocked Brent's free will, but thank God Jesus got that right immediately. Think of this. If everyone was exactly like you, Satan, that would be as boring as hell. No variety, everyone just like you. Satan, we can't have variety if we don't learn to respect the boundaries of those who differ from us, and if we don't give our fellow beings the room to evolve. Oh, I got to fix a typo in here. Yeah, let me go ahead and. Yeah, well, that's what happens when you read something out. They probably use brain control on me to get me to goof there. The brain control's been awful lately. The room to evolve. Where was I? Oh, yeah. I'm going to get back on this one. Yeah, the room to evolve. Here we go. The room, I'm going to read it from this one, that way I can fix the boo-boos. The room to evolve and grow and be different from us if that's who they are. And for God's sake, just because you're kicked out of the Supreme Being's house for violating his rules or preferences, don't try to force your preferences on everybody in the whole stinking shebang. Not everyone wants your dessert, Satan, and not everyone wants it how you like it either. Eating dessert is fine as long as you don't force your version of dessert on everybody else. Let them choose how they want their dessert, or whether they want it and how they want it. And just because somebody doesn't like your particular dessert or has different ways to eat it doesn't mean they're inferior to you or are pricks or stupid. Just because they don't share your particular taste in food and desserts. And everyone is entitled to run their house and eat the food they like, how they like it, as long as it promotes love and harmony. Gail liked the peace, love, joy, and harmony she felt with Jesus, and didn't see Jesus as the unfair ogre like how Jesuits and Satan seemed to perceive him. To Gail, Jesus' rules were fair, and she wanted Rule 13 to see that too. It seemed that Jesus and God were trying to navigate everyone's different preferences for food and dessert in a way that all could enjoy food and dessert in the way they like it, and that benefited all in a fair and harmonious manner. For some reason, Satan felt harmonious food and dessert was boring. Even worse, Satan felt that if you didn't admit you liked food and dessert exactly like how he liked it, then you were either a prick, a liar, and/or a hypocrite. But being different from you, Satan, and having different taste in my food preferences doesn't make me inferior or superior. It just means I am who I am, and you are who you are, and we all need to get along, understand each other, and respect the host, supreme beings, Jesus and God, who want us all to enjoy our food and desserts in a harmonious, balanced, and healthy manner. So don't set fire to my house, harm me, or try to brain control me into being just like you when I am who I am and am entitled to be who I am. Oh, so you say. The Creator goofed in creating Gail, and Gail is an inferior species and deserves to be brain controlled to make your point that Gail and humans are an inferior species and that God and Jesus are incompetent nincompoops to create flesh and blood humans. You say that if humans can be brain controlled and sickened, it means God goofed in making us? Okay, so God goofed in giving beings free will then? That's basically what you're saying. That we all need to be mindless, brain-controlled robots with God controlling our every move with perfection so that a mistake could never happen, eh? So a being is only superior when they can't be murdered, tricked, sickened, brain-controlled, etc.? Well, that certainly takes you out of the picture as a superior being, Satan, because you've been tricked many a time by the very being you claim to be superior to, God himself. God hasn't tricked me, Satan claims in defiance. Oh, I wouldn't be too sure about that. I've observed you over the past years and seen you make plenty of mistakes. God lets you make them, apparently because he wants you back on your path. So when did you, Satan, get the right to declare yourself a superior species and thus to declare me, Gail, a flesh and blood human, an inferior species? This business of inferior, superior is all subjective anyways. You can't have light without darkness. Even bugs and insects have their role, and everything is designed to work together in harmony, if only we would let it. Oh, so the Creator goofed in making flesh and blood humans. How can you be so sure of this, Satan? And what makes you think you're perfect or entitled to be like God, Satan? Judging by fruits, from Satan I see disharmony, imbalances, suffering, addictions, lying, murder, and pain, and suffering, and more suffering. Satan tries to compensate by giving everyone his favorite food and dessert. Well, that only works on those who have your taste in food and dessert, Satan. Frankly, I think Satan's offerings suck. If I had to live forever eating Satan's fare, please hand me the puke bucket. Judging by fruits, from Jesus I see harmony, balance, joy, inner peace, truth, fairness, reason, prosperity, love and true friendship, and emotional connection. When Jesus was growing and made some mistakes, there was a bit of imbalance and disharmony. But that seems to have corrected itself when Jesus found himself in June 2022. Also, Jesus seems to allow beings to have dessert or not have dessert, depending on how they like it, and in a way that doesn't disrespect those who have different food and dessert preferences. I know whose side I'm on. But Satan insists it's his style of fare or you get treated like scum. You are an inferior species to Satan if you don't eat food exactly how he likes it. Fine, Satan, then you can have your spiced up and jazzy and nauseating dessert in your corner. But respect my corner and my desire to have my food how I like it, and don't spit on me or poison my food and my life just because I think your fare sucks. Obviously, since everyone has different preferences for dessert, it's a simple matter of respecting the host of the now they're making me cough. Respecting the host of the multiverse and letting him lay down the rules so that all can enjoy their dessert and food in a manner that doesn't infringe on the rights of those who have a different way of wanting their food and desserts. This could all be worked out if we'd all just relax and have faith in the host and not try to force our version of food and dessert on everybody else. So with all this in mind, Gail decided how to navigate her relationship with Rule 13, who obviously had different tastes in food and dessert from herself. Okay, so we decided, even though, to be honest with you, I think sex parties are boring, okay? I don't think they're sinful, I just think they're boring, okay? But we will go along with them if it will help us to reach somebody who's in pain. Yeah, and that's what all that big long thing was about. There is a really funny section in here, really funny. This story, I think, is a comedy masterpiece. Yeah, anyways, now I was going to tell you about why I've decided to quit watching television. Just out of curiosity, because I've been getting along so good without a car. Just out of curiosity, I was just wondering if there was a place where I could buy I have a 19-inch television set, okay? I love it. It's a Samsung. My friend Susan got it for me in 2017, and it's been great. So I did some research. I discovered that I cannot get a 19-inch television set anywhere anymore. They don't make them. Samsung has discontinued this great television that I have. Now, the only kind of television that I can get has Wi-Fi built into it. You know what that means? That means it's built for brain control. Yeah. Even if you don't use the Wi-Fi, the smart TVs are built with Wi-Fi in them. So if I get a new television set, it'll be like it is with the smartphones. I'm going to end up being a brain control victim. That's why I've decided I'm not going to get one. I couldn't believe it. You cannot get a television set, a brand new television set today that works unless it has Wi-Fi in it. Even if you don't use the Wi-Fi, like the smart TVs are set up where you have to connect with the internet, it has Wi-Fi built into it. So basically, you're screwed if you don't have a phone. Now, I refuse to use a phone because I get under brain control. Yeah. It seems to me like our enemy has set things up that if you buy any new anything electrical that receives signals, that would be every smartphone out there, okay? That now also includes all the television sets. That you're going to put yourself under brain control. They've set it up so they can brain control you. So I've decided I'm going to have to kind of live like an Amish person now. Not completely, obviously, because I'm making this camera that I'm using I've had since 2011. And I'm not going to upgrade. But when I go into my Discord hangout, Discord, for some reason, after all the updates, no longer works with this 2011 camera, this webcam. They can get audio, but they can't see me. Well, at least I'm able to make YouTube videos where you all see me. So yeah, that is a decision I've made. I'm going to quit watching television. The reason why is because I want my current TV to last as long as it can. And if I don't use it, and because I've got good surge protection, I can probably keep it going until I'm no longer on this planet. That's my goal. If it conks out, I won't get another television. It's going to put me in danger. When I was under brain control in August 22, that's when I gave the order to take out 72 million. I believe I was brain controlled into it. And I believe my military also was brain controlled. We were all using our phones big time back then. That's why I went into this big, long thing. I thought, how can these beings, how can anybody justify the use of brain control? And I figured out what it was. It's Satan's way to make a statement that he thinks we humans are an inferior creation simply because we could be brain controlled. He is a real ass, let me tell you. To think like that, he's a real ass. And I kind of shot a lot of holes in his arguments with this story that I'm writing. Yeah, because Angelina Ballerina was like that. She thought she was so superior because she could brain control all my men into having sex with her. Anyways, this story is really funny. There's some sections in here that'll have you laughing in stitches. I'm almost done with it. I'll probably be done within a day or two. But yeah, I won't be watching any more television, only for emergencies. Because I don't plan on buying any more, and I want my current set to last as long as possible. Yeah. You say, what are you going to do like if your computer goes out? Right now, my goal is anything electronic. If it goes out, and it uses Wi-Fi. Yeah, even all the printers nowadays use Wi-Fi. You can't buy a printer nowadays without getting Wi-Fi set up. If it uses Wi-Fi, I'm not going to buy it. That's one reason my printer's not working, but the scanner works. I'm just going to keep what I have. Now this one does have Wi-Fi, but it was built before the automatons went evil, okay? I bought this printer in 2012, so it's safe. But if I get a new printer, I can't be sure of that. Yeah, so I won't. And it would make the Gail Shield fall too. You see, if I do anything that's going to make it so that I cannot be Jesus' righteous free love representative for him, the Gail Shield falls. Yeah. Plus, Jesus did tell me he doesn't want me to order anything online. Everything needs to be in-store, in person. And I know he's very skeptical about electronics. Yeah, there were several times when he was with us when he ordered me not to buy a new camera or to send him back. Yeah, he's very wary about electronics. Because Satan invented electricity and the computer. So, yeah, I am not going to be getting a new television set. I don't use a phone. It's not safe to use a phone. For me, anyway. Yeah. I almost gave away all my private financial information because of the brain control I fell under from using a phone. In fact, I might read you part of a story so you can see which story was this. It's right here in this story, so you can, I think it was this one, see what happens when you get under brain control. Okay. Maybe it was it this one? Trying to remember which story it was. I'm reading you parts of the Gail series. It wasn't this story. Let's see if I can find it. Wasn't that one? The Unwanted Lover? Was it The Unwanted Lover? Let me check this one out. Oh boy. I've written so many stories. I'm having a hard time remembering which story. Oh, I know how I can tell. Be in here. Number 12. I'm because nobody can see me anymore at Discord. I'm kind of like making an extra long YouTube video. Oh, they're putting all sorts of nasty stuff in the air, let me tell you. 2025. Oh, it's universe on the verge of destruction. I thought that was it. Was it? No, I think it was this one. Gail Shield goes to... Oh yeah, they're giving me symptoms, causing me to cough, attacking my sleep. The trick is you just need to do the Gail commandments and don't lose faith. You know, things are going to go wrong because we're in a war, okay? But we just can't lose faith. I mean, like I had one day I felt really crappy, really, really crappy. I think Brent was telling me brain to brain that I got hit by a big bomb, my Gail Shield or something. But I don't know, but I felt crappy. But I just said, stay calm, keep doing the Gail commandments, don't panic. You'll get through this. And the next day I felt a little better. I kind of gradually got better. Yeah, some of the stuff they're putting in these bombs is awful. Trying to figure, oh, here it is. Wait a minute. Here it is. I found it. Okay. Yeah, the mite Lizzo used a lot of brain control. She was awful. And I read this actually, but I'm going to just tell you what happened. She took over a Christmas party, okay? And then she started doing some things she shouldn't have been doing. She took a big bite, chewing the meat and fat wetly between her teeth. You know, she said, holding the crystal flute in one hand and gesturing to the crowd, holding the chicken leg in the other. Gail's a no good girl who has done a lot of bad things. But one thing I will never forgive Gail for is killing all the birds. That was her fault. The audience gasped in unison. Now a girl got to go to hell and back just to find some good chicken, Lizzo yelled. The hellfire behind Lizzo burst with dramatic emphasis, sending the chickens running and clucking with their wings out. And she thinks she can shame her enemies into stopping what they doing just by calling them ugly? Lizzo protruded her stomach, rubbing her greasy chicken hands slowly and deliberately all over it. I'm proud of my hot, fat, black panis and fupa. I love my gushing wet folds and voluptuous lumps. It's called body positivity. Body positivity means ugly is the new hot. Enough, Lizzo, I shouted. Brent wrote me this in a letter. I will not allow you to insinuate that Gail is vain and shallow, and I will certainly not allow you to take over this auditorium. I brought my forearm up to my chest and pressed the button on my wristwatch. Metcha Gail acta! Brent was trying to transform himself into Metcha Gail, giving him godlike powers and ability he had ever since he used the Metcha Gail suit to rescue Jesus from Satan on March 26, 2022. Lizzo appeared unfazed. Hold up, nigga. Phone call. What? Just then, I heard my cell phone ring. I looked over to my pocket. Compelled to answer it, I reached to get it. Hello, I said. What? I made an overdraw on my bank account, and I need to pay you back in Bitcoin? Lizzo smiled deviously. She pulled out her flute and started to play, tooting out little melodic notes. The $25 tier patrons, now fully aware of the dangerous situation at hand, began to summon themselves to the scene. Hang up, Brent, it's a scam, Rogel Dorn shouted at me. He was right, but for the life of me, I couldn't put the phone down. I found myself hypnotized, as if under a spell, completely forced to stay on this phone call with what sounded like an Indian man in a call center and certainly not my bank. I wandered off. Yeah, this is what happened to me, too. This is why I won't have a phone. I wandered off, continuing to chat with the person on the other end of the line. I was helpless to do anything else. Hey, Martina piped up, that's exactly what's been happening to Gail. Gail fell under a similar spell in August 2022 and almost lost all the money in her bank account when her phone rang and she answered it. Hey guys, Zach Knight jumped in holding a Jesuit rocket launcher. Looks like we need to pull up the big harpoons on this fat whale, am I right? Zach hoisted up the rocket launcher, aimed and ready to fire at Lizzo. Lizzo, with her eyes closed, continued to toot her flute, not at all threatened by Zach. Zach, with his finger pressed to the trigger, stopped suddenly and glanced down at the rocket launcher as though confused. He tilted his head and put his ear to the weapon. What? What is it, Zach? Brad asked, nervous and impatient. Wait a second. Zach suddenly got preoccupied with the rocket launcher. There's a rattling noise inside. Does that mean it's broken? Brad asked. I don't know, Zach shrugged. He continued to listen for a moment, gave the rocket launcher a shake, then began compulsively bashing it with his knee. He finally broke the object open, parts spilling out everywhere. He reached in and removed something from inside. With a satisfied sigh, he stuffed the guts back in and closed up the rocket launcher. Hoisting the weapon back onto his shoulder, he aimed at Lizzo. Time to Weight Watchers this bitch. Zach pulled the trigger. Oh, wait, it's broken now. This happened to Gail, too, Reno exclaimed. It's just like when Gail heard that rattling noise inside her computer and took it apart and broke it. Yeah, that did happen, you guys. Nelson, the rookie of the group, rubbed his chin in curious observation of the events. So this must mean that Lizzo has been causing Gail's problems all along. It's the flute! Reno shouted with an enraged growl. He bravely charged Lizzo. Anyways, they all tried to attack her, and it was really nasty. But the point is, I am afraid that, like what happened to Zach and Brad and me back in 2022, is now true of our television sets. Yeah. I mean, I've been without a phone since about fall of 2022. Okay? Because I don't want to end up getting under brain control. Now, it's not even safe to own a television set. They put Wi-Fi inside every stinking set out there that works. If you want to get what they call a dumb TV, that is one without a Wi-Fi antenna built into it, I call it the brain control antenna, you got to pay like $2,000 or order online. It's not safe to order online either. Yeah, for me anyway. In fact, Jesus ordered me years ago not to do it. So you guys, I just wanted to read you that section. Yeah, Brent ended up losing some money because he got under the brain control. I'll read you the very end of the letter here. She disappeared. The lights in the room immediately came back on. This was after they finally got rid of her. He said, my phone call with the Indian caller ended, although by then I was already out of a few $1,000s in Bitcoin and had given them all of my private information. Zach finally stopped hearing rattling, buzzing, beeping, and tapping sounds and stopped breaking every electronic in sight. Okay, there you go. Yeah, and today when I went on my walk, I noticed everybody had their phone right up to their ear, and they were behaving very strangely. I don't know, you guys. And then, even though I'm not watching the news, I do get the news by going online, okay? Because I have my Linux Ubuntu computer here, and I'll go to a Fox News website. Though I notice the websites are now getting set up, you need to log in. You are not qualified to watch. I said, okay, I'll go find another news channel. There are ways to get the news without a television set, let me tell you. Yeah. So, but from what news I don't get Gabrielle Chana FOX news, but from what news I'm able to scrounge up, we seem to be having a big problem with brain control. What I would suggest, you guys, is be very careful with your electronics, okay? You may want to go to 00 on cable and listen to my husband, Brent, and whatever he tells you to do, you better listen to him, because this brain control is serious business. Yeah. I really personally believe brain control played a big role in me murdering the 72 million innocents. So it's serious business. In fact, I know it did, because that notice that I got on my door happened because my apartment management they ate some brownies that were spiked with brain control drugs. Yeah. So brain control was a big factor in this. And the Jesuits thought it was funny that they brain controlled me and my military into murdering 72 million people. I felt terrible once the spell wore off on all of us and we realized what we had done. It was horrifying to us. That is an abominable thing to do to a person. To brain control them into like being a Manchurian Candidate. Now, haven't you seen that movie Manchurian Candidate? It's a real tragedy in a way. The main character, under brain control, ended up murdering the love of his life. You can see, oh yeah. I think he wanted to kill himself after that. In fact, Brent Spiner tells me, and he's monogamous, okay? When he was brain controlled into betraying me by having sex with Laurie McBride, he was suicidal. Yeah, but what Satan's forces do with the brain control is just really evil. Anyways, they are trying to make it so you guys can't hear from me. And that's one reason I'm giving you guys an extra long YouTube video this week. I'm going to try now to make pizza, hopefully without ruining it by being brain controlled. I might wear a tinfoil hat. Though I was wearing a tinfoil hat, I think, the day. They've got some really powerful brain control. I'm wondering if the bombs they're dropping over our head had brain control drugs in them. You say, what are we going to do? You're going to have to, you might want to read how Brent had to handle it with Laurie McBride. Just try to figure out how they're brain controlling you and try to avoid it. Try to avoid getting poisoned or brain controlled. I mean, you're not going to be able to stop it 100%, but try. Like, if you don't need to use a phone, don't use it. If you don't need to buy new electronics, don't buy them. I really think it's getting to the point now where we almost have to live like the Amish. Yeah. And, yeah. You know, when I was growing up in the 60s and 70s, kids went outside to play. We didn't spend all day in front of our gadgets. And in some ways, I think that was a lot healthier. Yeah. In some respects, I'm really proud to be a baby boomer. Because at least when I grew up, I didn't spend my whole life with a gadget next to my ear, looking at a computer in front of my face. my entertainment was going out in the sunshine, going outside, you know, going to the beach, playing volleyball, getting exercise, going out. Yeah, when I was a kid, I went outside just about every day to play. Yeah. And even I'm noticing a lot of the movies that are coming out right now, it's like everything's about electronics. There aren't any stories that have any depth to them anymore. In fact, probably my Gail series is probably the only thing that's dealing with the issues that really matter. Everything's so shallow. It's like people don't do any more deep thinking anymore. They're all brain controlled by their gadgets. Anyways, you guys, I won't be watching television. I wanted to let you guys know why. And I'm still going forward with my Gail series. I'm actually finding that I'm getting more done by not watching television. Yeah. And I was multitasking too. I don't know. It's like TV puts you under a spell or something. Yeah, maybe it's not good for your chakras. Anyways, you guys, extra long video, so because they can't see me at Discord. They're messing with all my electronics. And all my apps on my computer are all weird. It's like I have to do 2 or 3 extra steps to do the same thing that I could do a year ago. So I just tell myself, just stay calm, do your 2 or 3 extra steps, and get it done. Yeah. And then the app changes, like my Libre writer. Like one day it'll work one way, the next day it'll work another way. It's like they're trying to get me all freaked out. So I just say, well, at least it works. Or my Caden Live video editor, you know. Today, when I was updating my Linux Ubuntu, I used the terminal to do it. It was acting weird. It was like stalling on me and thinking, like everything's weird. Yeah. How do you handle it? Stay calm. I find if I stay calm, I will find a solution. Hey, I'm still able to make videos even though I'm using a 2011 webcam. It can be done. One thing I like about Linux Ubuntu is that I'm able to use old cameras. I think that's terrible. Another thing that I didn't like about the smart TVs, my suspicious antennas went up like this when I read it. They're saying, and you will make sure that you need to get updates to this television. I said, updates? Yeah, I'm going to be writing a story about Windows updates. Oh, talk about a disaster. Oh my God, if you want to destroy your computer or your device, just buy something that needs updates from something like Windows. Now, Linux Ubuntu needs updates too, and some of them have been a little weird lately, but it's nothing like Windows updates. Yeah. They designed Windows updates to put malware into your computer. And so that your computer will not last longer than 5 years. Yeah. They don't build electronics to last. They build them to break. And now it's gotten to the point where they build them to control your mind. Anyways, you guys, I think we all need to start almost living like the Amish. And whatever devices you have, try to make them last as long as possible. That's what I'm doing, because all this newfangled stuff coming out now is dangerous.
In a world of secrets, where darkness reigns, there's a warrior rising, breaking free.